This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Sean Preston.
Welcome to today's episode of the Good Neighbors Podcast. Today we have a good neighbor, a longtime neighbor of mine, and that is Dr. Virginia Cornell from the Aldergrove Animal Clinic. How are you today, Virginia?
I'm doing great, Sean. I'm always at my best self on a beach with a margarita, but I'm coping.
We talked about that when I saw you earlier this week, and it's a little difficult to see on the camera, but you're like 10 shades darker than the last time I saw you.
Yes.
And You spent a little bit of time on the beach. Whereabouts did you go?
I was in Grenada, so I just got back from 10 days in Grenada.
Was that your first time there?
Nope, that's our second time, but our first time was interrupted with COVID.
Oh.
So we just went back for a redo.
And for those who have never been to Grenada, what would be like a selling feature you'd tell them about?
There's not anything that's not a selling feature about the island. So the people, the weather, the beaches, the food, everything is absolutely a selling feature there.
Definitely have to add it to a bucket list of mine.
Yeah.
My parents got to go, so now it's my turn.
Yeah.
So for the listeners that don't know, Virginia and I have known each other for a very, very long time. I grew up on James Street in the Arda Bluffs. Virginia is still there, and she's been our family vet for a very, very long time and has seen old family members for babies leave our lives and new ones come into our lives. She's practically like family to me, and her family was on our inaugural edition of the Arda Bluffs Living Community magazine. She's got a great business. She's a leader in her industry at being a veterinarian. And so why don't you share with our listeners a little bit about your business?
Yes, so Aldergrove Animal Clinic is a small animal veterinary clinic. It's been established in Barrie since 1973. So we just celebrated our 50th anniversary of being in operations last summer. I've been there since 1993. So I just celebrated my 30th anniversary of working at Aldergrove. Yep. And then I've purchased Aldergrove back in 2004. And Aldergrove specializes in providing care to dogs and cats. We provide medical and surgical care to dogs and cats.
And you also just had a full facelift at your business as well.
We did. So about a year and a half before COVID hit, I had the brilliant idea that we needed to do a facelift on the facility and expand, get a little bit more room for our patients and our clients. I needed to change the overall appearance. I wanted to change the concept of the facility, and unfortunately that all of that transpired right at the same time that COVID hit. So it kind of dragged out the whole renovation process. But we changed the look of the facility from being very clinical and medical to being more sort of a relaxing, inviting kind of spa-like atmosphere there to just kind of make both the patients and the clients feel more comfortable and at home. We doubled our square footage so that we could increase sort of the services that we provide, have more exam rooms to reduce wait times. And it enabled us to provide more relaxation space for our staff members during their break time.
Oh, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Well, I know the answer to this question, but the listeners probably don't. So, when it comes to, your realm being veterinarian, there's lots of veterinarians out there. What's different about your clinic versus others that maybe you could speak to open or educate them a little bit more into that realm, because it's not as simple what that meets the eye.
Yeah, so I think what has evolved over the last several years is making us very different from a lot of the other veterinary clinics in the area is that we are still and are committed to always being privately owned. And so larger corporations have kind of moved in and purchased a large majority of the veterinary clinics in town and sort of cookie cuttered their protocols and their modes of operation. But we have remained very committed to not letting that happen with our facility. And we continue to want to have autonomy over our decision making with the medicine that we practice, and be able to have that personal one-on-one connection with our clients and our patients. And so we want to be able to think of our clients as members of one big family, and we love the fact that, you know, clients such as your family, Sean, and I have known you since you were a little guy in his hockey gear, but clients such as you and your family and other clients that have been really loyal to the clinic since, you know, I've been there, and some longer, and we've developed that relationship. And we don't want, you know, a big corporation coming in and sort of dictating now how that relationship is going to transpire.
Yeah, definitely have experienced that when Jack's had his tummy ache going on and we put him on the hydrolyzed protein food, and he's never had a problem with that. I took your advice and did the probiotics. I actually bought dog food yesterday. And, you know, he's been never better for it, and he's got a great, nice, shiny coat. So, and the vet tech's like super informative. It's always easy to go there. And so definitely for the listeners, you could take my word for it. A great place, a trusted place. And you definitely do, like Virginia's saying, get those family vibes. So why don't you tell us then a little bit, there might be some information for me here in this question, but tell us a little bit about your journey into, you know, maybe when you were a little girl to wanting to maybe do this, and then your journey to venturing into, you know, where you are and who you've become today.
Yeah. So my journey was, I've always felt like it wasn't necessarily so much of a decision to go into doing what I'm doing as it was just following a life path that was predetermined for me. And I was really fortunate that all of the stones fell into place and I could just follow along that path. But I was, you know, I grew up in a family where pets were always a very cherished part of the family, both, you know, in my immediate family and my extended family. So, you know, they were always part of my lifestyle growing up. And at a really young age, I had the opportunity to nurse a feral cat that had been injured by my grandparents' dog in their woodpile of all places. And my dad trapped that feral cat, brought it home, and I was able to nurse it and get it back to health. And it thanked me by taking off once it was better, but it would come back and visit periodically. But that was sort of my first endeavor into the medicine aspect of interacting with pets. And then when I was 12, I got my first job working in a veterinary clinic, and I never have not worked in a veterinary clinic since that point in my life. And so
Wow.
From the age of 12, I have always worked in veterinary facilities.
It wouldn't be fair for me if I didn't ask this question. And yes, I am going very much off script. Tell us about your fur babies and what you have at home.
Yeah, so currently at home, I have one dog, Boston Terrier. Her name is Miss Jellybean Jigglebottom Jones. And she's as active as her name is. And I think she is on the cover of that magazine that you were holding up a little while ago. And then we have 5 cats right now, which is actually kind of just a moderate number for us because we've had more. 3 of those cats are Bengals. One is a ragdoll, and then the other is a domestic long hair.
If somebody was getting a cat, let's say, I know you're the expert on this, because I've had my sister's, a couple of her friends made a mistake or two on this and got a Bengal cat thinking, oh, they're super intelligent. That's a really good idea. And if they're not full on cats or willing to do the training, they're more like a dog than a cat. What would be like an average cat for the average person?
Yeah, so that, I mean, we are seeing more and more exotic breed cats now at the clinic, and I love it. However, you know, the domestic breeds are just as beautiful personality wise, and really those ones are the ones that are more in desperate need of homes. And so although it's fun to get an exotic breed, really the shelters are overflowing with domestic short hair, medium hair, long hair cats that have, for whatever reason, been given up, and they need placements. And so, you know, if you are thinking of getting a cat, I would highly encourage people to just go to the shelter and get one from there. Most of the time, they're not given up because of behavioral reasons. The large majority of the time, they're given up because for convenience reasons. Either there was a death in the family and the person that was taking care of them is no longer around and the family couldn't accommodate taking the pet in, or there was a divorce, or you know, it was, you know, belonged to a student initially and now they've moved back home with parents and can't bring the pet with them, that sort of thing. And so unfortunately the pet ends up at the shelter, and those are the ones that need to have a home.
Well, definitely good to know from that perspective. So hopefully the listeners on the show will make the right call if they're ever looking to acquire a fur baby of their own. And so when I first came into you that one day and said, hey, I'm doing something new. I got this little magazine that's going into our community where we grew up in. And you talked to me about the importance of educating people, that there's a lot of misnomer, there's misinformation out there. You know, we live in the digital age, so you can go down any rabbit hole and find the wrong information or what you think. You know, we have a cat in the home as well too. And my 17-year-old was malnourishing the cat based off of something that she read on the internet. So with that being said, what would be maybe 1, 2, 3, if you'd like, a myth or misconceptions that you hear about a lot in your profession?
Yeah, I think, you know, there's a lot more than, you know, 3 big misconceptions that people pick up off the internet. And you know, I would say it's just where people choose to get their information. First of all, is probably where I would, you know, advise people just pump the brakes. And so, you know, people who work in veterinary clinics, from the veterinarians to the technicians to the VAs, which are veterinary assistants, are educated in things from healthcare to nutrition to training. And so if you have questions, you should reach out there first, as opposed to going to the internet, the breeder, online groups, you know, Facebook, that sort of thing, because that is where you're going to get sort of anecdotal information. And what that means is you're just going to get somebody's opinion on whether it's nutrition or training or healthcare. And vaccinations is another big one where there's a lot of misinformation circulating. And so instead of sort of trying to get your information from other people's experiences, and their experiences are just their experiences, there's no science behind that, and their experience doesn't necessarily mimic what happens in the general population, you should reach out to experts and people who have had training. Even, you know, honestly, and this is scary, even people who sell pet food at the pet store generally have no training in nutrition. So they're trained in how to sell food, and they're trained in, which food is going to be a good one to sell this week because of whatever kickbacks they get back from that pet food company. They're not trained in the actual nutrition or the nutritional needs of the patients that food is designed for. So when you have questions, it's much better to go to people who have sat in the classroom for, semester after semester, getting that in education. Technicians, veterinarians are required every year to keep their license active to get a minimum number of hours every year of continuing education. So to maintain that level of education. So we do have the most up-to-date information. There's nothing accurate on the internet that we don't know. The stuff that's on the internet that we don't know about is inaccurate information. So for anybody that has questions, just call, email, text, show up, and we can always set you on the right path with whatever question you have. Sometimes it's what dental toy is the best for my dog to chew on. Come on in. We'll tell you where to get that information.
No, very good. Well said. Very well put. I've been a victim of that myself, which you quickly corrected me. And so I definitely know as well, being the expert should always be the veterinarian. Okay, it's my favorite question to ask. I say this almost every single show because I'm a guy that likes to have fun. We have to have that work-life balance. I'm a firm believer in that. And I know you're a very busy lady, very, very busy. And so when you're not at the clinic, or if you're not sitting on a board, or if you're not being the leader in your industry, what do you like to do for fun? Let's peel back that curtain for a bit.
Yeah. So, I don't let grass grow under my feet. So travel is my probably number one, priority when I am not working. And so I prefer to be somewhere else other than here when I'm not working. But we have a cottage and I love to spend time up there, especially in the summertime. I love, walking the dog. I can spend, hours sometimes out in the trails with the dog. Reading is a favorite pastime of mine as well. I'm into yoga, so spend some time doing yoga. So I'm always busy. I'm, doing something.
When you're reading books, are you the romantic type, fiction, not fiction? What do you like?
Yeah, it's usually nonfiction, and it's usually sort of that mystery thriller kind of genre.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Which seems weird, but when you think about it, medicine is detective work. And so it does kind of fit with the personality.
So if I'm thinking about that, I think about my youngest sister, Chantel, right? And she watches all of these like murders on, documentaries on Netflix. And I'm trying to find the correlation with that one.
Yeah. I can't speak for Chantel, but I always justified in my mind is it's just kind of like stimulating that problem solving area of my brain.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause you're always investigating all the time, right? Yeah. People come in, oh, my animal's got a problem. These are the symptoms.
Yeah.
And then you're tapped to the task to try to fix it and make it better.
And it's like, for us, it's like a game of Clue because our patients can't talk to us and tell us what they ate, what they did, what happened. Right. So we have to use the puzzle pieces of what we're seeing in front of us, what the client observed, what the patient is doing. And we have to put all those puzzle pieces together to kind of get to the answer. So,
do you have a inspiring story of how you put those puzzle pieces together one time?
Oh, like a single case?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, they can probably happen every day, and usually they're, sometimes sad in their outcomes. But I think one of the funniest ones might be I had a patient that came in. This was during COVID, I think, patient came in, and he was a big dog, about 8 or 9 months of age. And it was a second opinion, actually. And he'd been to another clinic and diagnosed with pancreatitis. And when I got to questioning the history, he just didn't have the right history that fit with that disease. He hadn't eaten the things that typically cause that. He wasn't the right age that we usually see, not the right breed. And then when I palpated his belly, he was quite painful, but not in the area where they usually are if they have pancreatitis. So questioned the client a little bit more, could he have eaten something? And he didn't think that any of the toys went missing, but he does have some favorite little stuffies. And anyways, we took an x-ray, and on the x-ray, we could see the perfect outline of a teddy bear staring right back at us. And so we were able to go in surgically and remove the teddy bear from this dog's small intestines. And that dog had been sick for quite a while at that point. So it was kind of, it was happy ending to the story that he had come in for a second opinion. And it was kind of funny because you rarely see stuffed animals show up on an x-ray, but this one was just dense enough that it showed up, and its little smiling face was looking straight at us.
Yeah, a pleasant way to know how to fix that problem.
Yeah.
That was I'm happy I asked that question, because if I'm a listener on the show, I got to watch you use your mind in the way that how it works, that people don't normally get to see behind the scenes. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll switch over to maybe more of a serious question. Life throws things at us, and everybody's path's a bit different. People go through hardships, or they go through challenging things in their life. And I'm curious to ask you if you've ever had a hardship or a challenge in your life that you got to, rise above that challenge, and, did it make you stronger? Were you better for it?
I think I've been blessed to have things relatively easy in life, or maybe I just have the right attitude, and I always just look at things like that's just a natural challenge. But I think that, the biggest challenge I ever faced in life was actually getting into this profession and getting in when I did, because when I got into vet school in the 80s, it was a profession that was dominated by men. And so being a woman trying to get into the profession at that time was challenging. And even getting into the veterinary school that I got into was, that was a hard one. And so the University of Guelph the veterinary college there is ranked very, very high worldwide. And so if you get accepted to that one, you're really lucky. And so, that was hard, but, it's challenge accepted, right? So if you don't look at things like that as, a challenge that you're not going to be better at the end of for achieving, then what are you going to get out of life, right? Like, you can't just sit back and wait for people to hand you things all the time. You have to make life happen for yourself. So.
Well said. I couldn't agree anymore. What would be one thing that you wish the listeners knew about your business if you had to pick?
Yeah. So, well, I think I touched on, earlier, we are there to answer your questions. So, don't feel embarrassed or shy or think that we don't have time to answer questions. And so, not only the veterinarians, but the veterinary technicians and the veterinary assistants. So if you have questions, please ask, because it takes us twice as long to unpack misinformation than answer your question in the first place. So, that's a really important thing to know. The other thing to know is, that, everybody that works in this industry in general does it because we have a genuine compassion. And our industry in general, over the last, definitely since COVID, but over the last decade or so, we've been suffering from a shortage of technicians, of veterinarians, and there's just an increasing demand for our time and increasing number of pets. And some people in the general public are developing frustration that they can't get, seen, or they can't get the services that they want when they want it. And I think they're misperceiving that is occurring because, the profession just doesn't care anymore. And that's not true. The reality is that we're all working twice as hard as we did 10 years ago, but because the demand is 3 or 4 times larger than it was, we're struggling to keep up with that. And we all still really care. We're getting there. So please have a little patience and compassion that, that we still care, and we're still prioritizing all of the sickest and most needy patients have to come first. And sometimes, if we can't accommodate you at the time that you would like to come in, it's not because we don't care. It's because we may literally have somebody dying at our feet, and we have to address them first.
Oh, 100%. That's great information. And I think you perk some ears with that, and doing our best to help you try to spread that message so more people can find out the correct information and the right avenues on where they need to go. It's been amazing having you on the show. And for those who are curious, how would they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so Aldergrove Animal Clinic, we've got a phone, so you can call, or website, aldergroveanimalclinic.com, and you can reach out there. There's actually a symptom tracker on that website too. So if you have some questions about your pet and you're just wondering, I wonder if I should be worried because my pet has a discharge from its eyes, you can enter that into the symptom tracker, and it will just let you know if you should be calling to make an appointment or not. You can reach out there. There's actually on that page as well, if I could just take up another minute or so, there is a chocolate calculator, because the most common toxin we get phone calls for is chocolate. Right. And so if your pet eats chocolate, you can go on that website, just enter in your pet's weight, how much chocolate they ate, and that will tell you whether you should be worried or not. And that can avoid, a scare or a phone call. And so the website is the quickest way to reach us. And then you can text as well.
Phenomenal. What number would they use to do that?
Yeah, so if you go on the website, it will direct you to the Pet Desk app that's associated with Aldergrove, and then you download that app, and then you just text directly through the Pet Desk app.
Perfect. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Virginia. It was a pleasure to have you on the show. It was great to hear you tell your story. You have a wonderful business. You're a wonderful person, and thank you for doing all of the good things that you do on a day-to-day basis. Everybody loves their pets, and we're very grateful to have you there for us for that.
Thank you for having me, Sean. This was fun.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Midhurst. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpmidhurst.com. That's gnpmidhurst.com, or call 705-413-3775.